Hi, welcome to Cloud Computing and Microsoft Azure. I am Rohit Sablok. These days, cloud computing is the buzzword in IT world. Lot of stuff is talked about it, but only few people understand it properly. So today, we will try to understand what really cloud computing means, how it is different from the traditional way we have been using computers. Are we already using cloud computing? Or we have to do something special to use cloud computing. Also, we will see what kind of services are provided by cloud computing. And finally, we will have a look at one of the popular cloud computing service provider called Microsoft Azure. So let's start. So what we mean by cloud computing? Cloud computing refers to the delivery of computing resources over the internet. And what we mean by computing resources? Computing resources include the hardware, the physical machine which contains the CPU, the hard disk, the network connections, the internal memory, which basically runs our programs. Then we have the software, which are the applications that we use to perform some specific kind of work. Commonly, the most common of them are like the browser, web browser, Internet Explorer, Chrome. Then we have Microsoft Office. The next is data. The data we normally store on hard disk. So normally all this stuff is on a physical machine which is residing next to us. In case of cloud computing, most of this thing is in some machine which is residing in a data center far away from us and can be accessed over the internet. So the actual CPU power, the hard disk that is storing our data, and even the software that we normally have installed on our system is on that data center machine. We just connect to internet and access all those resources from a thin client which we have. So it's like, so normally what we have to do is like when we have to use a computer, before we use a computer we buy that hardware machine, we install our softwares. So now in this case, we simply rent it out from the cloud service provider. So we ask the cloud service provider, okay, I need this much CPU power, this much space of hard disk, and you can charge me this much money per month. So we just simply rent it rather than buy. So basically cloud computing enables us to consume computer resources as a utility, which is similar to electricity. We don't need to have a system that generates the electricity, we just rent it. Same is like renting out a flat rather than buying a home. Let's see this image. The image shows what kind of things or services are available on a cloud system. The services can be categorized into infrastructure, platform, and applications. The infrastructure includes the hardware resources. The platform includes the software platform that are used to build and run applications. And the application area are the softwares that a common end user uses for his work and which we were earlier normally installing and running on our own system. All these resources are in the cloud, or we can say internet, and we can connect to these and use these resources through various kind of devices, which can be phones, smartphones, laptops, servers, our desktops, and the tablets. How does the cloud company provide all these resources? Do they deploy a separate machine whenever user asks for it? So it's not like that. The cloud company has huge systems. So whenever a user asks for machine, a new instance of virtual machine with specific kind of configuration is created inside that system. So basically we are sharing a pool of resources which are in the data center of the cloud company. Similarly for memory, the hard disk which stores our data, they don't really have a separate hard disk for us. They simply create a new storage area inside a huge space. So basically we are getting our bit of resources from a huge shared resource pool. How is the user experience different in case of cloud? So let's see how we have been traditionally using the computers. For a home user, we generally have a standalone desktop or a laptop computer. In office, similarly we could have a standalone desktop computer, or maybe we are connected to a backend server machine which may provide a lot of hard disk space and many of the softwares. In case of cloud, the home user now doesn't really need to have the complete CPU power or the storage area in his standalone computer. A lot of that stuff can be moved to the cloud. The storage area, the software applications. So he can simply have a thin client which has some basic computing power, a simple operating system to run on it. So we can see like we have smartphones these days, the tablets, and the main CPU power and the data area is available on the cloud. You can simply connect to the cloud and then open your applications on the web and start using it. For the office, we will see later like how the organization moves all of its resources that were the back end of the. Now we will see what kind of services are provided by the cloud and how are these organized. The cloud services can be divided into three major areas. These are infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, and software as a service. The infrastructure as a service includes the resources which are like hardware resources. These are like the CPU power, the machines, the storage area, the network. Then the platform as a service is kind of the software platforms which are required by software developers to build their applications on and later run them. So for example, these can be the databases, the Java runtime, .NET framework, the middleware, the web servers, that kind of things. And in software as a service, these are the end user applications. So these can be like email application, Word application, Office applications. So for example, Gmail is one kind of software as a service. We will now see the three cloud service models in detail. The first one is IaaS, which is infrastructure as a service. It is the virtual delivery of computing hardware, basically the nut and bolt of computing. It includes the processing power, we can say it as virtual machines, and the storage area and the network. The virtual machine means that it's not an actual physical machine but behaves like a physical machine. It gets its bit of power from a huge shared system. Similarly is case of storage. So you don't have a separate instance of hard disk. You don't have a separate hard disk. You have your bit of space from a huge system. So what are the typical consumers for these services? They are the business organizations which need huge servers. Actually, they have been already having huge systems in their own data centers, but now they want to move to cloud since it makes more economical sense. So how does it work now? Basically, the working model. So the organizations, data centers and networks are now moved to the cloud. They don't really have to buy any hardware resources. They rent it from the cloud vendor rather than buying. The equipment is now owned and maintained by the cloud service provider. So the maintenance, staff and all that, the organization doesn't have to take care about it. All the maintenance, backup, security is taken care of by the service provider. What are the benefits for such a system? Now you don't have to decide like what kind of a system you have to initially buy. You can just start with a small one, then scale up and down as and when required. You don't need to set up an infrastructure in your own data centers. You don't have to maintain all those systems, and then you are basically renting out the system, so you pay as per the use. These provide a number of cost economical benefits to the organization. Second service area is PaaS, which is platform as a service. These are the services that provide environment to develop, run and manage applications. The services included are tools for design and development, for example Visual Studio, Eclipse. Then we have web hosting services, which is like web servers. We have software frameworks, which are .NET Framework, Java Runtime. Then we have services for team collaboration, which is TFS, GitHub. Then we have data management system like SQL, Azure. A typical consumer for PaaS is application developers. So how we use these services? So for a developer, the development environment is now present online instead of his own computer. He writes the code, debugs it online. The check-in, check-out happens remotely on the cloud, since the TFS, GitHub repositories are present there. The data storage and access on virtual servers is online, which is like the databases, the web servers. These are present on the cloud systems. When we build the application, the test and deployment happens on the cloud servers. Some of the benefits for such a system is that you can work from anywhere. Then the platform applications, you will have the latest versions for them. Anything that has been introduced new into the system, you will be immediately getting access to it. Finally, we have SaaS, which is software as a service. These are the application or software services that are made available to customers over internet. So the difference is that earlier we used to install and run the software applications on our system, but now these software applications are hosted and they run on remote servers. We simply open them on browser or some web-based environment and use it. So any application that is available on internet, for example Facebook, Gmail, Twitter, these all are SaaS applications. Nowadays many of the desktop applications have been moved to web. For example, Office on organizations can use the SaaS model services to move their applications that were earlier hosted in their intranet system and move them to internet. The benefit here is that it's now available from anywhere and from any kind of device. The benefit is that you don't have to be on a VPN for the organization. A typical consumer for these services is a common internet user or organization employee who has been using the applications internally. Now, how do we use these applications? It's quite simple. The user simply connects to the internet, runs the browser, opens the applications and starts using it. So, wherever the user may be present, if the user has an internet access, then he can use that application without the need to install that application on the system. Some of the benefits for this is you can access the application from anywhere, anytime. You don't need to install it. You don't need any upgrades or patches, and you have cross-device compatibility. What kind of people are using these services? The users can be categorized into majorly into three kinds. First are the infrastructure and network architects. These are the people who create servers, manage them, manage the connections, network connections in data centers. These people are the main consumers for the IaaS services. Second one is are the application developers. These users use mainly the platform as a service for their development environment and running and deploying the applications. The third kind are the common users who have been running applications using them for a long time. These mainly use the SaaS services and use it through the diagram shows clearly which kind of users are standing where. Let's now see what kind of cloud deployment models are there. The first one is the public, which is like open to everyone. Anyone can get resources from a public cloud. So publicly accessible, this is a publicly accessible cloud environment. It is owned by and operated by a third-party cloud provider. So they run it for their own, it's a business for them, and they run it for making money out of it. The second one is private cloud. This belongs to a specific single organization. So normally the organization is all have been having their own data centers with their own servers and backend, but basically the cloud architecture was not there in that case. So people still needed to have some thick client standalone desktop laptop systems to use it. Now the cloud makes it possible for them to use a thin client and any device, and they can access this cloud from anywhere. So everything that was on intranet earlier, now it's available on internet. Also, a large part of compute power and data storage has moved to the server side rather than to their own desktop. This cloud may be managed by the organization itself or some third-party company. The next one is the community cloud. The community cloud is controlled and managed by a group of entities or organizations. They have common objectives and concerns, which allows them to share the resources and the infrastructure. These common things could be like the security, the policy considerations. This cloud makes more sense for these companies rather than a private cloud because it's more cost effective, and the shared resource allows them to easily scale up and scale down as required. Another one is the hybrid cloud. This is a cloud system which is comprised of two or more different deployment models. So one could be public and one could be private. So some organizations may have their own private cloud but may also use a public cloud. This is because some secured applications, data critical applications, maybe they would like to put it in private cloud, and some more common one they would like to put in public cloud, which allows them to scale and scale down easily. So these four models are the most major ones. What are the advantages of using cloud? The first one is cost saving. Normally organization with large network of computers, offices in different regions, they have to create and manage their own data centers. The data centers were having huge servers and a big IT staff to manage all. Moving to cloud allows reduction in cost of owning and operating computers and networks. Also, in many cases, the organization doesn't know how big servers it needs, what will be the future needs. So initially in cloud, they can start with a low upfront cost and have minimum number of servers. Later on, as required, they can scale up. Also, the purchasing and installing all the system takes time. In case of cloud, this will be a rapid deployment and as such rapid in return on investment. Another benefit is scalability. The organization can start with a small deployment and move up or down as required. This scaling up and down is fairly rapid and it doesn't take much time, and so you don't waste on time. Also, you can configure the system. You have the flexibility to use extra resources at peak times. So, depending on the traffic, the web traffic, you can ask the cloud vendor to add more systems or reduce them according to the traffic. Another benefit is reliability. The cloud vendor creates multiple redundant sites for your application. Also, it provides backup of the data and services so that in case of disaster, the business continuity continues and the data can be recovered easily. Another benefit is in the area of maintenance. In cloud, the service provider does the system maintenance. So the organization does not need to maintain a huge number of IT resources to provide systems support. Also to the end user, since you are using software as a service, the application is hosted on web and access is through APIs. So you don't have to install each the applications on each user's system separately and manage the licensing. Accessibility. Since cloud is available over internet, your users can access the applications, use them, work on them from anywhere, anytime. This kind of system improves productivity of your company's employees. The employees can work from anywhere and anytime. So if there is something critical, then they don't really need to be in the office. They can work from anywhere and complete the task. Also, whenever new innovations or new features are added to the cloud, they are immediately available to everyone, every user. This slide shows the major public cloud vendors in the market today. Although every few days a new cloud vendor is getting added, but still these are the major ones. First one is the Amazon Web Services, then we have Microsoft Azure, Google and Salesforce. We have a basic understanding of cloud computing, the kind of services it provides. Let's look at a popular cloud vendor, Microsoft Azure. What is Azure? Azure is Microsoft's cloud computing platform. As it is a public cloud system, anyone can go and rent out services from here. Azure runs on a worldwide network of Microsoft managed data centers across 22 regions. This is the Azure official site. I would suggest everyone to go and have a look at this site. It provides lot of information on what kind of services are available, what they mean, and how they will help you in your work. A lot of Fortune 500 companies are currently using Microsoft Azure. Azure provides a whole lot of services. These services are segregated into the standard models like infrastructure services and platform services. The infrastructure services include the compute, storage, and networking. Here, compute provides the raw processing power and includes virtual machines. The storage provides the raw storage areas, and it's implemented in terms of blob storage, Azure files, etc. In networking, we have virtual network, we have load balancer, DNS, we have gateway support, etc. In the platform services side, the most common ones are the developer services and the web and mobile services. Developer services provide the Visual Studio Online, the team project services like TFS, GitHub. The web and mobile services include deploying and running of web applications. Then we have support for other applications like mobile apps, logic apps, API apps. Next we have the data services, which includes the SQL Azure database. We have document DB, we have Redis cache, we have tables. This is for storing and manipulating structured data. The analytics and IoT are becoming popular areas in IT world. And data analytics, these days huge amount of data is being generated from different sources. The search engines and e-commerce, they generate huge amount of data which needs to be analyzed for marketing and other engagement. So we have big data these days. Big data support is provided in Azure in terms of HD Insight. Then we have IoT, which is Internet of Things. So in coming days, everything will be on internet. Your television, your fridge, even your electric appliances, all will be on internet, and they would be generating huge amount of data so that services can be provided for them. Both analytics and IoT services will be required for them, and as such they are supported in Azure. There are some other services also like media and CDN, integration, etc. Let's see each of these in detail. We will now look at Azure services in detail. The first one is compute services. This is for online processing power. In terms of IaaS, we can consider it as a virtual machine. So instead of buying a machine, you can have an instance of virtual machine which has a configuration as required by you. In terms of PaaS, the compute services are the application development services. So these are fully managed platforms for professional developers. In case of SaaS, the compute services like how much you are using the application and in how much storage you may be using while using software. The diagram here shows how much control you have on the services in different models. So in case of IaaS, you will simply get a virtual machine. Managing that virtual machine will be up to the end user. So you will simply have kind of an hardware. You will install your own operating system. You will have your own applications and data stored there. In case of platform as a service, you will also be provided with the operating system, the framework, development frameworks, the runtimes. The only things that you will have control over is the applications that you are developing and the data attached to it. In case of software as a service, you don't really manage anything. Everything is managed by the vendor. The next major service is data services. In terms of IaaS, you can simply think it like a raw data storage area, which we can say as Azure Drive. Then there's blob storage, which is in terms of like storing files, large objects which can be images, videos, and other stuff. This kind of storage is for unstructured data. To support structured data, there are services available in PaaS. So first one is like the queue, which stores stores messages in queues. Then we have table, which is the Windows Azure implementation of a non-SQL database. Then we have SQL Azure, which is a hosted version of SQL Server, which exposes many but not all of its feature. Another one is Redis Cache, which is in-memory data structure stored, used as a database, cache, and message broker. Next we come to network services. These services include virtual networks, which is like the representation of your own network in the cloud. Then we have load balancer. The purpose of load balancer is to distribute traffic across a number of servers. So let's say you have a website and the traffic here is huge. So one system may not be sufficient for handling all the traffic. So we can have multiple systems which have the same hosted web application. The load balancer decides which server to distribute the traffic based on how much the server is being used currently. We also have VPN gateway, which connects the on-premises networks to Azure through site-to-site VPNs. Then we have traffic manager. The traffic manager improves the availability and responsiveness of applications. It provides automatic failover capabilities. The compute, data, and network services are the core services of computing. Now we see the developer service. These services are applicable more to software developers, the teams that work on developing a software together. So basically these services allow us to build and operate applications. The services include Visual Studio Team Services. These includes the development tools like Visual Studio, Eclipse, IntelliJ, and even your own IDE. Then we have version control softwares, which is like Git for distributed version control, Team Foundation version control for centralized version control. Other than that, Azure also provides services for continuous integration. So whenever developers are checking in their code, they can automatically configure it to build the application, validate, and then deploy the application. Once the application is deployed, performance testing can be automatically started on them. So this will do something like cloud-based load testing. Other than that, program management tools like Agile team tools, Kanban, Scrum, through which you can capture, prioritize, and track work, are also available in Azure. Major Azure service is web and mobile. This service provides everything that you need to build and run web and mobile applications for any platform and any device. There is support for various kind of applications. The first major one among them is web applications. It provides services for creating such applications like the development environment, the software frameworks, the web server, and the backend data sources. You can build and test these applications on cloud and finally deploy them so that they can be accessed over internet. It can automatically scale up and down. So when you have large traffic on your website, more servers will get added and load balancer will distribute the traffic to web servers. And then when traffic is low, it will automatically reduce the server. The next one we can have a look at is mobile applications. These are for developing applications that can be accessed from mobile phones. Then we have API applications. These are the cloud APIs which can be called from internet. Another one we have is function applications. These are lightweight functions that respond to events across Azure, on-premises and SaaS providers. So for now we have got enough of theoretical knowledge. Let's look at some real stuff. So how do we go and rent out these services? Let's look at the Azure portal. So we start with logging into the Azure portal with our account. When we log into the portal, we will be shown the services that we can rent out. So as we can see here, we have number of services like websites, virtual machine, cloud service, SQL databases. So in this way, we can rent out these services. So for example, we can create virtual machines, we can create virtual networks, we can use cloud services, we can set up storage accounts, and we can define websites and so on. To create a virtual machine, we will simply need to select the virtual machine and we will show some steps which we have to follow. The steps will ask us for the configuration of the machine, which will include the processing power, the memory, the operating system, and then we will be shown like what would be the cost of that machine. In this way, after few steps, we will have the virtual machine up and running in few minutes. So that's such an easy task. So if you see, so currently Azure has two versions of the portal. The first one is Azure Management Portal. This is the old one, and this is the newer one, which is Azure Preview Portal. The Azure Preview Portal currently does not contain all the features which are available in Azure Management Portal, but these features are slowly being added. This image shows the new Azure portal, which is called Azure Preview Portal. So we can just have a look at this portal. It has a geographical map of the world, which is showing the data centers and how they are running. It has the marketplace area. The marketplace shows like what kind of softwares are available. The billing part, so billing shows how many credits you are left, how many days you are left, so as forth. And we can go to the Azure portal from here and start renting out the services. So it's this is kind of quite easy to use. Azure subscriptions. Let's see how we pay for these services. Azure provides a number of subscription options. To use these subscription options, you must first have either a Microsoft personal account or a work school account. Let's see some of the most common subscription options. First one is a free trial. The link to use this free trial, you will have to go to the Azure website and sign up for a free trial option. This will give you some dollar credits and a month to try out any combination of resources in Azure. If you exceed your credit amount, your trial will be suspended. As it says, this is totally free, so you can go and try this out. The second one is prepaid subscription. Here you prepay for Azure services for a period of 12 months, and you can receive a 5% discount on Azure services. The minimum purchase amount is $6,000. Next option is pay as you go. With this subscription, you pay for what you use by attaching a credit card or a debit card to the account. So whenever you rent out some service, the amount for that service will be credited, debited from your card. Next one is enterprise agreements. With an enterprise agreement, you commit to using a certain amount of services in Azure over the next year, and you pay that amount ahead of time. So these are some of the options for paying for the services. I hope now you have a better understanding of cloud computing. This was just a basic introduction so that even a common computer user can get an idea on what it means. This session will prepare you to go and explore advanced cloud concepts. Thanks for giving your time. All the best and take care.